I realized something was wrong the moment I stopped being surprised. Not when it began, not when it crossed a line, but when it finally felt reasonable. I remember standing in my kitchen, bare feet on cold tile, the kettle screaming, my phone face down on the counter. I was calm. That was the impossible part. Somewhere inside me a thought appeared, fully formed and quiet. This is what your life looks like now. There was no panic, no urge to call anyone, no sense of emergency, just recognition. That was the first time I understood how a person can end up somewhere they never chose. People imagine disaster as noise, as impact, as a clear before and after. This was not like that. This was erosion. I had always believed I was attentive, careful, the kind of person who notices changes. I was wrong. What I noticed, I renamed. What I felt, I adjusted. What should have alarmed me, I absorbed. I did not fall into anything. I stepped, again and again, small steps, almost normal ones. At the beginning, there was nothing to resist. He did not arrive as a problem. He arrived as a relief. I was tired before I met him, not visibly, not in a way people comment on. A quiet fatigue, the kind that settles behind your eyes and makes days feel slightly misaligned. I had learned to function inside it. Work, friends, plans. From the outside, I was stable. From the inside, I was conserving energy, avoiding questions that required real answers. He noticed me in that state. Not dramatically, not intensely. He simply noticed, the way someone does when they have time. Our first conversations were ordinary, too ordinary to remember clearly. Coffee, weather, shared annoyances. He listened without interruption, not as a technique, as a habit. When he spoke, he did not compete. He added, "It felt easy." That should have been my first warning. Ease is not neutral. Ease is persuasive. I told myself this was what maturity felt like. No fireworks, no chaos, just alignment. Almost normal. I had been taught to distrust intensity, to equate calm with safety. So when calm appeared, I accepted it. The early days were clean. No pressure, no expectations stated out loud. He never asked for more than I offered. He simply accepted what I gave and arranged himself around it. That is a rare skill. It makes you feel competent. I felt seen without being exposed, desired without being claimed. That balance felt adult. I did not question it. When small discomforts surfaced, I labeled them growing pains. Every connection has them. Every adjustment costs something. That was my logic. It was not false. It was incomplete. The first real shift was subtle. He began to anticipate my reactions, not predict. Anticipate. He would adjust his tone before I spoke, change topics before I expressed discomfort. At first, this felt considerate. I told myself I was lucky. Then I noticed something else. I was speaking less, not because I was silenced, because I no longer needed to explain. He already knew, or so it seemed. There is a comfort in not having to articulate yourself. There is also a danger. I did not distinguish between the two. When he disagreed with me, he did it softly, with context, with reasons. Never dismissive, never raised. He made my objections feel slightly excessive. Not wrong, just unnecessary. I began to pre-edit my thoughts, not consciously. I learned which parts of myself landed smoothly, which caused friction. I selected accordingly. This did not feel like loss. It felt like refinement. I told myself I was becoming more flexible, more reasonable, almost normal. Friends noticed changes before I did. They said I sounded calmer, more grounded. They said I seemed settled. I agreed. Settled felt accurate. Settled also means sunk. But I did not hear that part. There were moments, brief, sharp, a look that lingered too long, a correction phrased as concern. A silence that followed my disagreement. Nothing that could be quoted. Nothing that could be proven. Just sensations. I learned to override them. Sensation is not evidence. That was another belief I carried proudly. He never told me what to do. That is important. He simply framed outcomes. If you do this, this will happen. If you do not, this might happen. He was rarely wrong. When someone is consistently correct, you start outsourcing judgment. It feels efficient. I did not notice when my decisions became confirmations. I would say what I was thinking. He would nod, adjust a detail. I would agree. It felt collaborative. Looking back, I see how narrow my range became. But at the time it felt focused, purposeful. The world simplifies when options disappear. That simplicity can feel like peace. The midpoint did not announce itself. There was no argument, no revelation. Just a day when I heard myself apologize for something I did not believe was wrong. The words came out smoothly, practiced. I stopped mid-sentence, not outwardly, inside. Something in me recoiled. I finished speaking anyway. That was the moment. The internal break. I did not confront him. I did not withdraw. I observed. For the first time, I watched myself from a distance. I saw how quickly I adapted, how instinctively I smoothed tension. I saw how often I checked his reactions before trusting my own. This awareness did not free me. It complicated me. I now knew what was happening, but knowing did not restore what had already shifted. Awareness without action is its own form of captivity. I stayed, not because I was afraid, not because I believed I deserved anything. I stayed because leaving would require a version of myself I no longer fully accessed. He had not taken it from me. I had set it down. I began testing boundaries quietly. Small refusals. Delayed responses. He noticed immediately, not with anger, with curiosity. What changed? He asked it gently. I did not answer honestly. Honesty would have collapsed the structure we lived inside, and I was not ready for the noise of collapse. So I offered something acceptable. Stress, work, nothing serious. He adjusted again. He always adjusted. That was the problem. There was no villain to oppose, no cruelty to justify escape, just a gradual narrowing of self. Pain did not arrive loudly. It came as dull pressure, a sense of being held in place, not trapped, contained. Contained things do not move freely, but they also do not fall apart. I understood then why people stay. Stability is seductive. I could have left at many points, I know that. I also know why I did not. Leaving would have meant admitting that I had been complicit, not deceived, not overpowered, complicit. I had participated in my own reduction. That is a harder truth than victimhood, so I accepted the arrangement, consciously. That acceptance was clean, no drama, just a quiet agreement with reality. This is how it is. The realization in the kitchen came much later. Nothing had changed that day. That was the final confirmation. If nothing changes and nothing feels wrong, then this is not a phase. This is a life. I stood there, kettle screaming, phone silent, and understood that I had traded depth for manageability. I had chosen almost normal over fully alive. He did not force that choice. He simply made it easier. I turned off the kettle. I poured the water. I drank my tea. I went on with my day. That is the ending people do not expect. No escape, no reckoning, just continuation. I live carefully now, not cautiously. Carefully. I monitor myself more than him. I know where the edges are. I know what I gave up. This knowledge does not undo anything. It simply sits with me. Cold. Clear. If you stayed until the end, I appreciate you. Like the video and subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this.